Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Coming up in the next hour. Maldives President Mohamed Muizi calls India a valued partner and friend, emphasizes that Malé would never do anything to undermine New Delhi's security, meets Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi completes 23 years in public office. The Prime Minister credited with transforming Gujarat and then India with bold economic reforms and policies. October 7 marks 1 year of the Hamas terror attack on Israel. Families and supporters continue to rally for the release of hostages. 2 Chinese nationals killed in an explosion near Karachi International Airport. The country's embassy in Pakistan calls it a terrorist attack. The Maldivian President Mohamed Muizi, who is on a state visit to India, was accorded a ceremonial welcome and a guard of honor at the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan earlier today. President Muizu was accompanied by the First Lady Sajida Mohammed and a Maldivian delegation. President Draupadi Murmu welcomed the visiting dignitaries at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was also present on the occasion. Later, President Muizu met Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Hyderabad House in New Delhi. The two leaders had extensive discussions on strengthening bilateral ties between the two countries. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Maldivian President Mohamed Muizu held delegation-level talks as well. The two leaders also witnessed the exchange of several MOUs. Addressing the press with President Muizu, Prime Minister Modi underscored that India is Maldives' closest neighbor and friend and holds an important place in the Neighborhood First policy and the Sagar outlook.
सदियों पुराने हैं और भारत मालदीव का सबसे करीबी पड़ोसी और घनिष्ठ मित्र देश है। हमारी नेबरहुड फर्स्ट पॉलिसी और सागर विजन ने मालदीव का महत्वपूर्ण स्थान है इन दोनों में। भारत ने सदैव मालदीव के लिए फर्स्ट रिस्पॉन्डर की भूमिका निभाई है, चाहे मालदीव के लोगों के लिए एसेंशियल कमोडिटीज की जरूरत पूरा करना हो, प्राकृतिक आपदा के समय पीने का पानी उपलब्ध कराना हो, कोविड के समय वैक्सीन देने की बात हो। भारत ने हमेशा अपने पड़ोसी होने के दायित्व को निभाया है।
And the Maldives President Mohamed Muizu thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the people of India for their support, noting that India is a crucial partner of the Maldives' infrastructure development. President Muizu also said that he looked to conclude the free trade agreement with India.
We look forward to concluding the free trade agreement with India, which will enable us to harness the full economic potential between our countries and to increase Indian investments in both our tourism and various sectors of development.
The Maldives is set to introduce India's RuPay service, a move which is expected to strengthen the Maldivian Rufiyaa. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Muizu inaugurated a new runway at the Hani Mardu Airport in Maldives. The inauguration of the international airport runway is funded by a US $132 million Indian line of credit and it marks a significant step in enhancing bilateral ties. India has handed over 700 social housing units built under the Exim Bank's Buyer's Credit Facility. The handover of the housing units in the Hulhumale Phase 2 will in fact further deepen the partnership, acting as a pivotal moment in the relationship between the two countries. The Maldivian President Muizu also laid a wreath. He paid homage to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat in New Delhi. His wife, Sajida Mohammed, was with him. The President also signed the visitor's book. And Jessica Taneja has been following this visit closely. She joins us now and can unpack some of the details for us. Jessica, what is the symbolism and the substance of this visit?
Well, if you see, the Maldivian president is in India and he's going to continue with his trip now to Mumbai and Bengaluru, where he will meet the business delegation and discuss various other initiatives that Maldives and India would undertake in the near future. Important to point out from the press statement that was held just a short while ago, where Prime Minister Modi was with President Mohammad Muizu, and you heard President Muizu also say that we're exploring the possibilities of a free trade agreement between India and Maldives to strengthen the strategic ties that both already have, and that expands to the maritime domain quite significantly, as both are important partners in the Indian Ocean region, and also Maldives being an important partner when it comes to India's Sagar policy, which is security and growth for all in the region. Now, if you see how this relationship with President Muizu had begun earlier in the year, during immediately after his election, relationships seem to have taken a different turn back then. But I think both the sides have sat together. There have been various consultations between the two to iron out those differences. And of course, the thaw in the relationship earlier seem to have now, does seem to show at this point with this visit from President Muizu, that the relationship right now is quite stable, as predicted earlier.
Indeed, Jessica. And so can Indian tourists look forward to visiting the Maldives as they did in the past?
Well, certainly if you heard President Muizu, he said that Indians are the most, the people who are most traveling to Maldives, and losing that crucial part of tourism would be problematic and would affect the tourism economy of the nation right now, which is battling with certain economic distress. You look at the country's foreign reserves, not in a great shape at this point, roughly close to a 500 million, and inching and moving towards, if not an economic collapse, but certainly an urgency of sort. And with the recent development that we saw, where India extended a budgetary support of $50 million to Maldives, also on expected lines. Now, today we also heard the leaders talk about a currency swap, and that would certainly help Maldives as well. Going forward, India would be able to help with their crucial infrastructure development, which is what Maldives needs, and the current debt that rests on its expansive infrastructure projects. So, of course, they would need assistance there, not just in technology. You also heard the RuPay card that was launched, and potential and possibilities to be explored for the UPI payment system as well. So, a lot of trade ties. The trade ties, of course, continue to enhance with the Maldives. But at the same time, looking at how this relationship moved forward, given the geopolitical calculations in the region, Maldives would certainly rely on India, not just for economic dependence, but also with China's threats in and around the Indian Ocean region.
Thank you very much, Jessica Taneja, for joining us with those inputs. Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi completes 23 years in public office on Monday, a tenure marked by a series of ambitious schemes and initiatives. Prime Minister Modi's journey from Chief Minister of Gujarat to the Prime Minister of the country has been characterized by bold initiatives, technological leaps, and a reimagining of India's place on the global stage. His tenure as Gujarat Chief Minister laid the foundation for many national-level programs, and from economic reforms to environmental conservation, His Gujarat model inspired initiatives that were later scaled up across the country as Prime Minister Modi. And Prime Minister Modi has, in fact, maintained a focus on development while preserving heritage. Commemorating the Prime Minister's 23 years in constitutional office, Amit Shah, the Home Minister of India, took to X and shared his thoughts. He congratulated Prime Minister Modi for dedicating his life to the country and to countrymen without stopping, without getting tired, without caring for himself. And instead of looking at the problems in pieces, he presented a vision of a holistic solution to the country. Unquote. The Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri also congratulated Prime Minister Narendra Modi on completing 23 years in office as the head of state of central government as well as of the state. And he said on the mantra of nation is supreme and welfare of people is the aim of life. The Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, Kiran Rijiju, also congratulated Prime Minister Modi and said that his journey is more than just governance. It's about touching lives, uplifting communities, and building a stronger India for generations to come. Well, Amit Mukherjee, my colleague, has been looking at this story in some detail, and he joins me now from the newsroom. Amit, Prime Minister Modi completing 23 years in public office. If we look back at this journey, you know, from being the Chief Minister to becoming the Prime Minister, what stands out in your opinion?
Well, Mark, if you look at the entire journey, it has been very, very eventful, but it has not been very easy. Now, if you look at when he took over his office as the Chief Minister of Gujarat in 2001, now Gujarat was a completely devastated state. It was hit by one of the worst earthquakes which we had seen in the last several decades. So Gujarat was completely in tatters, and the prime objective at that point in time, which Narendra Modi had to face, was to get back the state in order. In fact, there were a lot of discontentment as far as relief and rehabilitation was concerned. Things were not moving in a proper direction. First and foremost, he had to put things in order. He got the state together. And in fact, over the next 2 years, he was able to build up enough trust in the state, which is why if you look at the elections which happened around December 2002, the BJP government led by Narendra Modi, you know, that was the first election he faced after he took over as the CM. BJP backed about 127 seats out of the total 182 seats in the Gujarat State Assembly. And also, you know, even the takeover was not very simple. Not only was Gujarat hit by an earthquake, but at the same time, you know, there were a lot of you know, discontentment within the state administration, which people did not like, which is why he had to be paradropped into that state. And after that, it was not, of course, looking back, the several elections which he fought as a Chief Minister of Gujarat, he won almost each and every one of them before he kind of made his foray into the national politics in 2014. But even then, you know, the Gujarat model became a major sort of a showcase as far as his national politics was concerned. You know, if you look at the whole Gujarat structure, I mean, Gujarat was completely devastated after the 2001 earthquake, but it was he who actually got the entire state back together. And everybody who compares Gujarat model right now is something which came up after 2001. So definitely it has been a major role. I mean, he played a major role. I mean, since the time he took over.
You did mention about his electoral success, and actually, you know, he has won every single election from that election you talked about till date. And so that's 23 years and counting. But, you know, as a global leader, he has also raised India's stature on the world map. How do you view this?
Absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned previously, I mean, more than anything else, he has been focusing on development. And some of the developments which were actually implemented by the Modi-led government, you know, it had a far-reaching, you know, sort of ramification as far as socio-economic development of India is concerned. Which is what actually translated at the international level, and people started to believe in his leadership. In fact, some of the things which was implemented by India, for example, the UPI, the digital platform, it completely transformed the kind of the way the business is being done in India. also the kind of socio-economic projects which he implemented, which brought about an inclusive development in the entire country. A lot of 80 crore people have been pulled out of the poverty line. It was all because of the kind of policies which were implemented by the Narendra Modi-led government. So all those things added up to a image in the international platform which actually enhanced his image. Even if you look at what is happening, the geopolitical unrest that's happening at different pockets of the world, the Modi administration and Prime Minister Modi is playing significant, if not pivotal, role in whether it's the West Asia conflict, whether it's the Ukraine-Russia war. Everywhere, it's Prime Minister Modi right now is having a leading role to play. Mark?
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Amit Mukherjee, for joining us with that update. And still to come here on DD India News Hour, Britain's Prime Minister Starmer calls for ceasefire on October 7 anniversary, says he stands with the Jewish community. Afghan women urge world leaders to put pressure on the Taliban to treat them with equality and dignity. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, on October 7th, 2023, Israel saw an attack which could not be defined in words, raw, heinous, barbaric. Still, those are not apt words. A terrorist group, Hamas, had entered Israel, attacked and killed the civilian population wherever they could find them. People screaming, running and trying to hide. They returned to Gaza, taking hostages then. And terrorists entered their homes, not even sparing a one-year-old baby. And it was not just the Israelis who reeled from the shock of this unexpected attack. Here's Aarti Rana's report.
October 7th, 2023 will always be remembered for one of the world's deadliest terror attacks. On that day, Hamas terrorists stormed across the border from Gaza into Israel in what would become the worst attack in the country's history. At the end of the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, the terrorists launched their assault by land, air, and sea. They had actually managed to penetrate what was always thought to be a fortress with ease. A year later, the confirmed death toll from the attack, including hostages killed in captivity, has reached 1,205 on the Israeli side. Terrorists abducted 251 hostages on October 7th, 97 of whom are still captive in Gaza. 33 hostages are dead. It was the first invasion of Israeli territory since the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The governments all over the world denounced the attack and described it as terrorism, while some Arab and Muslim majority countries blamed Israel as the root cause of the attack. In the week following October 7, the Israeli Air Force dropped 6,000 bombs on Gaza. A complete siege was ordered. And by October 27th, Israel had begun a full-scale ground operation in Gaza. The impact of the conflict spread as other regional groups began attacks in what they called solidarity with the Palestinians. Houthi rebels in Yemen began launching attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea. disrupting a key global trade route. Global concerns over a wider conflict grew when a strike hit the Iranian consulate in Syria, killing 16 people. And tensions rose again when Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh was killed in Tehran while attending the funeral of Iran's former president. By the middle of September, Israel declared a new goal of the war: to return roughly 60,000 Israeli citizens displaced due to Hezbollah rockets in the northern part of the country. Days later, a coordinated attack on Hezbollah pagers and walkie-talkies across Lebanon killed 37 and injured nearly 3,000. Bombings and air strikes across Lebanon followed, killing hundreds, including Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. Iran retaliated to the killing of Nasrallah by firing hundreds of missiles into Israel. On the eve of the first anniversary of October 7th, Israeli air attacks have battered Beirut's southern suburbs in the most intense bombardment of the Lebanese capital in years. It's a year since Hamas launched an attack on Israel, catapulting the region into a war and a humanitarian crisis that threatens to engulf the region. The families of hostages have been demanding a ceasefire. The conflict is expanding, and with it, any chance of peace appears to be dwindling. Aarti Rana, DD India.
Well, the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has vowed victory against Hezbollah on Sunday during a visit to soldiers on the Lebanese border, recalling October 7 massacre.
A year ago, we suffered a terrible blow. For the past 12 months, we have been changing reality from end to end. The whole world is astounded at the blows you inflict on our enemies. And I salute you and tell you, you are the generation of victory. Together we will fight and together we will win with God's help.
The Israeli President Isaac Herzog issued a message to Jewish communities across the globe, stressing on resilience of the Israeli people. He underlined the importance of standing united and strong against anti-Semitism across the world. And the president also referenced the ongoing threat posed by Iran, which launched a second aerial attack on the Jewish state on Tuesday.
A year since our women, our children, our old people were hunted down in their beds, burned to death, beheaded, raped, and shot. A year since the gathering of our beautiful young people turned into a scene of carnage, torture, and death. A year since hundreds of our people were brutally dragged into captivity, dead and alive. And we must be honest, here, now, when the passage of time should be able to offer comfort and some sense of closure, the earth shakes still. Our wounds still cannot fully heal because they are ongoing. It is in the ongoing threat to the Jewish state by Iran and its terror proxies, who are blinded by hatred and bent on the destruction of our one and only Jewish nation state. It is in the tangible fear, uncertainty, and anxiety about the future. All of these are here with us still.
Well, Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer pledged to stand with the Jewish community and called for a ceasefire as Israel marks the anniversary of the October 7 attack. Starmer described the Hamas attacks as the darkest day in Jewish history since the Holocaust. He said that the collective grief has not diminished in this 1 year since the atrocity. Israelis joined families of hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza in Tel Aviv on Sunday. Images of the hostages held by Hamas were projected onto the walls of Jerusalem's Old City on the first anniversary of the day that they were taken captive.
It doesn't feel like 1 year. It feels like one whole day. It's devastating to think that they're still there, and we can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Nothing is is done, and we are very scared for the lives of the ones that are still alive. We know that a lot of them are not alive, but we are fear that the ones that remained alive won't survive any longer, and we have to get them out of there as soon as possible.
We were walking home from dinner and we saw the whole, the lights with all the pictures, and it was just so hard to even comprehend that it's been a year, and we just want to bring them home already to their families, and we'll never forget what happened. Bring them home.
Meanwhile, demonstrations are being held in major cities around the world calling for peace and the release of hostages. In Argentina and Chile, vigils were held in the capitals on Sunday, on the eve of the first anniversary of the conflict. Candles were held and a minute's silence was observed for those killed at the Plaza de Mayo of Buenos Aires. In Turkey as well, hundreds of people in the southeastern city of Diyarbakir, they marched in support of Palestinians. In Paris too, protesters marched near the Eiffel Tower on Sunday calling for the release of hostages taken by Hamas. In London, in Hyde Park, several thousand people took part in a vigil on Sunday to remember the victims of the October 7 attacks. In Pakistan, at least 2 Chinese nationals were killed and several others injured in a massive explosion outside Karachi airport. The Balochistan Liberation Army has claimed responsibility for the attack. In a statement, a separatist group said that the attack was targeted at Chinese nationals, including engineers, and was carried out using a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif has condemned the attack and vowed to ensure security of Chinese nationals. The Chinese embassy said that the convoy from the Port Qasim Electric Power Company was attacked near Karachi. The attack happened late on Sunday. Sri Lankan President Dissanayake has announced that the investigations into the Easter Sunday attacks will be expedited. Interacting at Negombo with families of those killed in the Easter attacks of 2019, the President said that steps will be taken to ensure that such a tragedy never occurs again in the island nation. He assured that justice will be delivered to the victims. The President also stressed on the importance of conducting the investigation without any preconceived conclusions or biases. President Dissanayake visited the church during the morning and laid floral tributes in the memory of at the memorial there established in honor of the victims. The Easter Sunday attacks had taken place on the 21st of April 2019 and claimed the lives of 274 people and left many others injured. The tragedy is among the most tragic disasters in the history of Sri Lanka. Now, still to come here on DD India News Hour. Tunisia's presidential election sees a low voter turnout. Swing states can still swing either way in the US presidential election.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of the main stories. Maldives President Muizu calls India a valued partner and friend. He emphasizes that Malé would never do anything to undermine New Delhi's security. He meets Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Prime Minister Modi completes 23 years in public office. The Prime Minister is credited with transforming Gujarat and then India with bold economic reforms and policies. October 7 marks 1 year of Hamas's terror attack on Israel. Families and supporters continue to rally for the release of hostages. Well, beleaguered Afghan women want the world leaders to put pressure on Taliban rulers to treat them with equality and dignity. Seeing their situation, the European Court of Justice has ruled last week to grant Afghan women asylum on a priority basis if they have suffered their rights being stifled under the Taliban rule. Here's a report by Akhilesh Suman.
As global leaders gather in New York during the high-level week of the UN General Assembly, the beleaguered women of Afghanistan are trying to sensitize them on their situation. They are trying to highlight that while women and girls in Afghanistan are falling further from the view both inside and outside Afghanistan, and their situation continues to worsen.
What today is doing Taliban in Afghanistan, it's against Islam, it's not in the religions, and it's not in our culture. OIC countries can play a great role to work with them, to talk with them, especially ulama of Islamic countries.
The former Director General of UN Affairs in the former Foreign Ministry of Afghanistan, Asila Wardak, is part of the delegation. The delegation is talking to leaders, officials and influencers about the plight of Afghan women. Asila Wardak said that in other Muslim countries, women are in a much better situation. And essentially, what Taliban is doing is completely un-Islamic.
To be very honest, Taliban spent so many years in Pakistan where Benazir Bhutto was a prime minister. Taliban spend more of their life in Qatar where women can drive, where women are part of the society and political participation. I think more pressure is needed.
American actress Meryl Streep has also voiced her support for the Afghan women. In a meeting in the United Nations, she told the members that a squirrel has more rights in Afghanistan than a woman. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres too joined in and urged the Taliban regime to remove discriminatory restrictions against the women.
A squirrel has more rights than a girl in Afghanistan today because the public parks have been closed to women and girls by the Taliban. A bird may sing in Kabul, but a girl may not, and a woman may not in public. This is extraordinary. This is a suppression of the natural law.
I join them in demanding that the de facto authorities remove all discriminatory restrictions against women and girls immediately and reopen schools and universities to girls beyond grade 6.
In Afghanistan, all women and girls are banned even from talking in public, from going outside the home alone. They cannot attend school. Sweden, Finland and Denmark have granted refugee status to all Afghan women who seek asylum. Last week, the European Court of Justice ruled that nationality and gender are sufficient for an EU country to grant asylum to Afghan women who have seen their rights stifled under the Taliban rule. The EU ruling had come when Austria was denying such concession. Many other countries and organizations around the world, including the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, have called for respect for the fundamental rights of Afghan girls and women. Afghan women have suffered decades of deprivation due to continued turmoil in the landlocked nation. The return of Taliban obscured any hope of a turnaround, and the situation remains extremely disturbing. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
Well, Tunisia's presidential election saw a low voter turnout, with President Kais Saied, in fact, expected to win easily as the opposition parties have boycotted the vote. Official results are not expected until Monday evening, but an exit poll showed that Saied, in fact, was leading by 89.2% of the votes. If the results are confirmed, there will be no runoff vote. The supporters of the Tunisian president gathered in Tunis, and they celebrated after the exit polls came out, indicating his victory in the presidential election. Sunday's election had pitted Saeed against two rivals, his former ally, Chab party leader Zohair Maghazoui and Ayachi Zamel. And that's a businessman who was seen as posing a big threat to Saeed's re-election until he was jailed actually last month. Tunisians voted on Sunday in an election in which President Saeed is seeking a second term. His main rival, Zamel, and most other opponents were imprisoned or barred from running. The European Union voted in favor of increasing import duties on Chinese electric vehicles, a move that highlights shimmering trade tensions the simmering trade tensions between these two economic powers, as well as a shift as well in the influence that Germany has over European policy related to China. And Deutsche Welle correspondent Emily Leschner is joining us from Berlin with more. Emily, give us some background to this vote.
The vote means that tariffs on electric vehicles coming from China into the EU can be raised up to 35%. And this is on top of an existing standard 10% tax. Now, the move doesn't really come as a major surprise. A year ago, the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, gave a State of the Union address in which she made it pretty clear that Europe would not stand by what it saw as unfair market practices by China because China subsidizes its domestic production of electric vehicles. And Ursula von der Leyen then opened an investigation into China's practices. Now, the vote had key backing from some European trade partners like France, Italy, and Greece, but not from Germany. Von der Leyen faced quite a lot of resistance from Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the leaders of the big three German car makers, that's BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen. And they were all strongly opposed to this tariff hike. But despite heavy lobbying, they seem to have lost the battle. And it's really a key turning point for Germany, which used to wield quite a bit of influence on EU policy when the country's car industry was seen as a formidable force.
And why was Germany opposed then, Emily, to the tariff hike? And what are German car makers afraid of?
It's no secret that German car makers are struggling right now, in part because of this strong competition in the EV market from China. They're worried that Beijing is going to retaliate with its own set of tariffs, which would put into jeopardy hundreds of thousands of German jobs, as well as their sales. Now, China is Germany's biggest market for electric vehicles. A third of German cars are sold to China. So that would have a significant impact if China did retaliate. And they're also worried that China could restrict the import of minerals that are critical in making electric batteries. And they really see this tariff hike as an unnecessary escalation, that has the potential to spark a trade war. They wanted to continue negotiations with China over things like minimum price points and caps on how many EVs could be imported to Europe, which the EU Commission has agreed to, even though the tariffs will still go into effect.
About 240 million people are eligible to vote in this year's U.S. presidential election. However, only a relatively small number of them are likely to decide who becomes the next president. Experts believe there are only a handful of swing states that could plausibly be won by either the Democrat, Kamala Harris, or the Republican, Donald Trump. The U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are hurtling towards the November election showdown. and one of the closest contests in modern history is what it's being termed as. And with 19 electoral, let's take a look at some of the states that make a difference. With 19 electoral college votes, Pennsylvania was once reliably Democratic, but these days political dynamics have changed and the state could be Republican. Trump, in fact, won this populist battleground Pennsylvania by 0.7 percentage points in 2016, and Joe Biden won it back in 2020 with 1.2 percentage points. And the southeastern state of Georgia, too, is an election flashpoint at the end of Trump's first term. The prosecutors in Georgia had indicted Trump in an election interference case. In a boost to Trump in this case, it has been paused, till after the election. But Biden was the first Democrat to win Georgia since 1992. The demographic changes are likely to benefit Harris, who has courted the minority voters across Georgia during her campaign. Clinton had lost Wisconsin after giving the state a wide berth during the 2016 campaign, and Trump considers it winnable, and his party held a summer national convention there. While Trump led early against Biden, Harris has a tiny polling edge now. Now, Florida Gulf Coast residents are bracing for another powerful storm, the Hurricane Milton, which will make landfall on Wednesday. Just weeks after the Hurricane Helene and the Hurricane Milton, it's now intensifying in the Gulf of Mexico. It could make landfall as a Category 4 or 5 storm, and its surges are expected to exceed 10 feet. The authorities are preparing for the largest evacuation since 2017. Helene had killed over 200 people across 6 states, making it the deadliest storm in the U.S. since Katrina.
Earlier this morning that it was possible that could happen today. Some said it might happen tomorrow, and it's already happened. And so it's strengthened. This is a 24/7 moment for this debris removal. You have a storm and then have one less than 2 weeks later, 2 majors back to back. That is not something that is easy. That creates a lot of challenges. And so what we have to do is just do it round the clock until it's no longer safe to do it.
So counting of votes for the assembly elections of the Indian states of Haryana and the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir will be held on Tuesday. The Election Commission has made elaborate arrangements for the counting of votes. The single-phase polling for 90 assembly constituencies in Haryana was held on October 5 across more than 20,000 polling stations. It registered a voter turnout of 65.65%, a nice number there. And elections in Jammu and Kashmir also were held in 3 phases. And the first phase of voting was held for 24 seats, and that happened on September 18. Across 25 constituencies had exercised their franchise on September 26. According to the Election Commission of India, the first and the second phases of polling had registered 61.38% and 57.31%. The third and final phase of polling across 40 assembly constituencies took place on October 1. It saw an overwhelming voter turnout of 69.69%. And the assembly polls were held in the Union Territory for the first time in 10 years. This is also the first assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir since the abrogation of Article 370, which had given this a special status to Jammu and Kashmir. It was abrogated in 2019. Jammu and Kashmir now has 90 assembly constituencies after the recent delimitation exercise. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Ratan Tata says that he's undergoing regular health checkups and there is no cause of concern. And England will be taking on South Africa in a Group B match of the Women's T20 World Cup. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. And India's Home Minister Amit Shah on Monday reviewed the security situation in the Naxal-affected regions with the chief ministers and the top officials of the insurgency-hit states. The union government is providing all possible assistance to the affected state governments to fight the menace.
सबका लक्ष्य होना चाहिए कि अंतिम व्यक्ति तक अगर विकास पहुंचाना है तो हमें नक्सलवाद को पूर्णतः निर्मूल करना पड़ेगा। और मैं मानता हूं कि 19 से 24 तक इस दिशा में बहुत अच्छा काम हुआ है।
Let's take a look now at other stories making the news. And the Home Minister Amit Shah also took to social media and he said to extend his greetings on the 32nd Foundation Day of the Rapid Action Force. The minister said, Foundation Day greetings to the personnel of the Rapid Action Force and their family members raised to maintain law and order during emergency situations. The RAF has evolved into a role model of courage, dedication and professionalism. I salute their selfless service to the security of Bharat. The Agriculture Minister of India, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, spoke on the changing demography of the state of Jharkhand, highlighting the decreasing population of tribals in the Santhal region. And he said that the government will implement National Register of Citizens, NRC, in the state to control the incoming migrants displacing indigenous communities. To mark the 92nd anniversary of the Indian Air Force, a 7,000-kilometer Vayu Veer Vijeta car rally is to be organized from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh. The Defence Minister Rajnath Singh set off that rally on October 1 and it will formally be flagged off from the Toise Air Force Station in Ladakh. That's happening 8th of October and it will culminate in Tawang, Tawang district of Arunachal Pradesh on October 29, 2024. In a tragic accident in the Indian state of West Bengal, at least 7 people have been killed and 3 injured in a coal mine blast. It was a private coal mine operating on a lease. The explosion occurred during the coal crushing process. Now, Ratan Tata said that health rumors about him are unfounded and that he is undergoing a routine medical checkup due to age-related conditions. The former chairman of Tata Sons clarified that the reports of him being hospitalized after a drop in blood pressure are unfounded. He said, and I quote him now, "I am aware of the recent rumors circulating regarding my health and want to assure everyone that these claims are unfounded. I am currently undergoing medical checkups due to my age and related medical conditions. There is no cause for concern. I remain in good spirits and request that the public and media refrain from spreading misinformation." You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for the sports news, and for that we have Deepika Mehto. Over to you, Deepika.
Thanks and good afternoon, Mark. First, let's get our viewers a quick update from the ongoing Women's T20 Cricket World Cup. Well, England will take on South Africa in a crucial Group B encounter of Women's T20 World Cup. Both the teams have played one match each so far in the tournament and have emerged victorious. While England beat Bangladesh by 21 runs, defending a total of 118, South Africa secured a dominating victory over the West Indies. The match is expected to be a challenge between spinners as the surfaces have been slow in the World Cup so far. Well, Indian women defeated Pakistan by 6 wickets in their Women's T20 Cricket World Cup match in Dubai on Sunday. Chasing 106 runs, India reached 108 for 4 in 18.5 overs, with Shefali Verma smacking 32 runs off 35 balls, including 3 fours. The result also saw India bag their first victory of the campaign, having lost to New Zealand in the opener.
India defeated Pakistan by 6 wickets in their second match of the ICC Women's T20 World Cup on Sunday. After losing to New Zealand in their opening match of the global tournament, the women in blue played a near-perfect game. Chasing a target of 106 runs, the Indian batters struggled in the beginning but soon got the rhythm back and started scoring the runs. Shefali Verma remained the top scorer for India. She scored 32 runs before being removed by Umema Sohail. Skipper Harmanpreet Kaur and Jamima Rodriguez were other notable contributors for India. For Pakistan, Fatima Sana picked up 2 wickets, while Sadia Iqbal and Umema Sohail clinched 1 wicket each. Earlier, Pakistan scored 105 runs for the loss of 8 wickets in 20 overs, with Nida Dar, Muneba Ali and Fatima Sana contributed some runs. For India, Arundhati Reddy took 3 wickets, Shriyanka Patel picked 2 wickets, and Renuka Singh and Dipti Sharma and Asha Shobna clinched 1 wicket each. Arundhati Reddy was announced player of the match for picking 3 wickets. Sports Desk, DD India.
India registered a comfortable 7-wicket victory over Bangladesh to take 1-0 lead in the first T20I of the 3-match series in Gwalior in men's cricket. India first bowled out Bangladesh for 127 and then chased down the target of 128 with 49 balls to spare. Asked to bat first, Bangladesh were in early trouble at 14 for 2 with left-arm seamer Arshdeep Singh removing both the openers Liton Das and Parvez Hussain. It was also a memorable night for Varun Chakravarti, who made his comeback to the national side after 3 years, taking 3 wickets in the match. India were in total control of the game with Mayank Yadav and Washington Sundar picking up wickets in the middle overs. With the bat, Hardik Pandya placed away to an unbeaten 16-ball 39, while Sanju Samson and skipper Suryakumar Yadav both got out after scoring 29. On to tennis, world number 6 Coco Gauff registered a dominating victory in China Open final, creating many records and signaling a stronger comeback in upcoming tournaments. Our next report takes you through the glorious record etched by Gauff with her latest victory.
World number 6 Coco Gauff dominated Karolina Muchova to win the China Open in Beijing on Sunday. After a disappointing few months by her standards, including surrendering her New York crown in the last 16, Gauff added the China Open to her triumph in Auckland in the month of January. Gauff, under a new coaching team in the Chinese capital after splitting with Brad Gilbert last month, wiped away tears at the end, as she now becomes the first player to win each of their first 7 WTA hardcourt finals in the Open era. Not only this, Gauff fired off 24 winners in a strong performance to claim her second WTA 1000 title after her 2023 victory in Cincinnati, where she beat Muchova in the finals. Gauff improved her head-to-head record against Muchova to 3-0, and now world number 6 Gauff becomes the youngest China Open champion in 14 years. 20 years old Gauff is the second American champion in Beijing, following Serena Williams' title runs in 2004 and 2013. Coco Gauff began the 2024 season with a successful title defense at the ASBC Classic in Auckland. With a message to the fans signaling her next big tournament to come in the next year, Gauff signed off with tears of happiness in her eyes, along with regained confidence. Sports Desk, DD India.
World number 2 Carlos Alcaraz moved into the fourth round of the Shanghai Masters with a hard-fought 7-6, 6-3 victory over China's Wu Yiping. Alcaraz showed off some of his best tennis during the match against the competitive Chinese wildcard, hitting 23 winners en route to his 11th consecutive victory. The 4-time Grand Slam champion will play either Gael Monfils or Hugo Humbert for a spot in the quarterfinals. In other results, American Tommy Paul produced a stunning comeback to beat Chile's Alejandro Tobilo by 6-7, 6-7 and 6-2. Paul saved 5 match points to ultimately prevail in a contest that saw him recover from being a set and double breakdown. And world number 1 Yannick Sinner overcame a spirited challenge from Thomas Martin to reach the fourth round of the Shanghai Masters. Sinner came from behind to beat Argentine by 6-7, 6-4 and 6-2 in 2 hours and 39 minutes. The 2-time Grand Slam champion will play either Ben Shelton or Robert Karabilis for a spot in the quarterfinal round. Earlier, 5th seed Daniel Medvedev was made to work as he recovered to beat Matteo Arnaldi by 5-7, 6-4, 6-4. Those were the top highlights of the hour from the world of sports. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Deepika. And well, the world observes the birth anniversary of the Indian ghazal singer Begum Akhtar. She is regarded as one of the greatest singers of ghazals in various genres of classical music. And known for her soulful and melodious voice, Begum Akhtar is also a Padma Shri and a Padma Bhushan awardee. Begum Akhtar's immense contribution to Indian music continues to inspire music lovers globally. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, you can get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the mobile app of DD India. It's available on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn, and with me is Deepika Metho. And from all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.